Wealth can be spiritual wealth, physical wealth and health, kind of combined. But in regards to financial wealth, which is what I believe we're speaking about today, I believe that is having enough so that you can save the money aside, having enough for emergencies as well, and also having enough to be able to give to others or to organisations that you would like to, without it affecting you or impacting you too negatively. So I believe that's what wealth is to me, and also having it for your community, whether that be your nuclear family or whether that be a community that you are part of, that you support, and that people support you. That I believe wealth can be collective as well as individual.
So wealth to me means financial security.
I think wealth to me means freedom. Basically, it means the ability to have full autonomy over my time, which is the opposite to what I do right now and a lot of other people do in society, which is unfortunately
recording in progress.
Their time.
Wealth, I believe, is when people have a surplus of their income and they're able to spend freely.
From my experience, I would say growing net wealth has not been easy due to high taxation, financial management, lack of education, property markets overwhelmingly priced.
I think there's only a real few ways to earn money or to bring in a return. It's generally investing in a property. It's investing in a business and building up a business. It's investing in, you could argue, the great companies of the world in terms of an element of investing in funds or investing in the stock market. Did I say savings?
No, but you've said it now.
basically savings. Yeah, I don't really see that there's not really much outside of those things in this world for someone to generate a return. In a sense, someone working a everyday job is generally working, again, trading their time for money.
You can just sustain and you can hope that you will have enough when you retire. But building wealth, it's almost impossible. That's how I see it.
Very simple. To get net wealth, for an ordinary person, you have to work hard, try to save money, and if you have goals like you want to buy a car or a home, whatever you want to buy, or clothes, so you work for that. Some people work to get money by crooked means, evading taxes or cheating on government taxes. But you have to make some effort to get wealth in monetary terms.
The rich will always stay rich, you know. If you've come into a wealthy family where financially you are in a better situation, they will always stay rich.
I think that it would have been difficult for me to acquire wealth, let's for instance, in classic ways like working in the stock market, because I would not fit into that space. I would not feel part of an old boys network.
I would say things that made it easy for me have been help from sort of parents. Obviously, I work and I, had saved up my own money, but that's only because I was living in a property owned by my parents and they were paying the bills, etc. So hence I was able to save money. Had I been completely independent, I doubt that. I doubt I would be in the position I am now, where I could buy my own property.
It's difficult to acquire wealth in this country as an immigrant because, one, you came in this country, you don't have savings, you don't have money, you don't have job, you don't have even place to live, neither purpose. How can you acquire wealth?
Because the money you make, the day-to-day job that you do, by the time you pay your bills, you take care of your children, and you will not be left with no savings. And most of us migrants, we just hear about savings. We do not have savings because all the money that comes in, the way it comes in, sometimes it's not even enough to cover for the bills.
The barrier is that there's not enough coming in. Okay, there's not enough coming in, so I can't start saving.
I have to send money to them because all of them count on me. I'm the only one. I'm the only boy in the family, and also, it's my duty as an African man. It's my duty to look after them.
I'm from an Afro-Caribbean background, and I grew up in a time, and I grew up in a community, and it still goes on to this day, where people in the Afro-Caribbean community would be involved with something called partner, which basically meant a pooling of money, a little bit of a saving scheme where everyone would put their money in to a pool, and then it would pay out to an individual on their go every month. Obviously, that involves the people having a lot of trust. Someone being almost like a treasurer and holding the money for everyone else. And that's generally how a lot of people saved, going back into when my grandfather and my older uncle first came to this country in the 50s. That's how a lot of people saved for things, in a sense, because to a lot of people, there wasn't that access to banks.
Yes, so it's a tradition. The intent is, I don't think it is passed down with the intent that you will sell it. That's not the conscious intention, but that's the subconscious intent. Gold is passed down because it's part of the tradition that I come from, and also it is for security. The reason this tradition exists is because women from my community can't inherit. So then what do I give her? Let me give her gold.
I'm very happy to make ends meet with whatever I have because it is making ends meet, and that's good enough for me. I don't know. I kind of have that security that I will be okay because I was told, God told me it will be okay.
Being of African origin, some of us have a bad view, a negative view of accumulating wealth because we see it as being carnal. Therefore, we just about want to make enough, not too much. So I think faith could have a negative effect on the accumulation of wealth.
They work really hard, and so hard work, obviously having skills, having savings, having a community, having the stability of a stay-at-home mum or someone whereby other people can kind of go out and work, and then that work ethic, but it comes at a cost, and then there's mental health, there's illness, there's all sorts of things that come out of that. There's the loss of family life and all of that side of it. So I think that that's something that I want to share as well.
Really, the biggest way to acquire wealth, it seems, is to get onto the property ladder. And I think that is proving to be one of the most challenging things. I know I can speak for my generation. I am I'm not first generation, sorry, I'm second generation British. And I guess this also applies to people that are first generation as well. That can be difficult if your parents or your grandparents haven't acquired property for themselves.
My first house that I bought in this country was in 1975 in Leicester, a 3-bedroom, semi-detached house, just for £9,000.
I'm able to buy a property now because, like I said, I lived at home, I accrued savings, I bought a property, and else because of fiscal factors, my property, I made some money on that. I was able to buy another property.
I'm not able to save for a house, for a down payment. And the way I see it is there aren't enough schemes or benefits or opportunities for people to own a home. The schemes that are existing, there are gaps. So if you are not financially well secured to get that property, these schemes kind of don't help.
And very soon I'll be mortgage free on this house. So no mortgage to pay. So 2 of my pensions and 1 pension of my wife, we can have a comfortable lifestyle.
So, like, on the whole angle of, like, pensions, when I talk to my dad about pensions, I mean, like, Dad, have you got a pension? And he'll, like, look and point at me. Like, he looks at me as his thing. So when we talk about the inability to build wealth later on, I'm like, I fully am expecting my dad to look at me as someone that will have to support him later on. And that will be a difficulty because I have more in the way of financial challenges than his generation have had. And those challenges continue to increase as we go forward.
So how can you acquire any property? You don't have saving, you don't have deposit, you don't have nothing. So it's a difficult, challenging situation to acquire property. And your income you earn is very low.
The promise of having a career is that you will have the ability and the opportunity to move forward, to accumulate more wealth, to move up the ranks, and so on. But considering, like, you know, your existence as a person of color within this country, it's not easy.
Taking money back home, every time that I work, I got family, I got parents, I got sisters, uncles. I need to pay their rent, I need to pay my cousin's school fees. And then in this country as well, I have to pay my bills.
Because I think that within my community, people tend to have the sort of jobs where there's a lower income. And so they're not able to acquire that access of wealth, especially with property prices having increased. And if you're on a lower income and you're usually also education, so there's usually always in a situation where they're not always in the better schools and so not getting the education they need. And so they're not able to acquire sort of wealth through assets.
And there's a lot of barriers that prevent me from growing. When you want to do business, you don't have money, you want to go to the bank for loan. It's extremely difficult. The requirements are really high. And you practically live in day by day. And sometimes even your salary is not enough. You work hard, you want to improve yourself, you go for these opportunities, you turn down. So it's difficult to grow.
So it sounds like you're seeing a strong link between education, employment, and wealth.
Yes.
And that sometimes there's a demotivating factor when you're trying, you're getting the skills, you're going through the job interviews, but that's the success at the end of the day is difficult to come by. Yeah.
But yeah, but thankfully, I've found some success. So I do have, a part-time job, but it's a zero hours contract job. So it's not the most stable.
There's lots of opportunities my parents couldn't get when they came to this country, that they had to build their own businesses and do shitty jobs because they couldn't get the jobs that their white counterparts were getting because of racism.
Yeah, well, because you're an immigrant or a foreigner, you're considered below people, the natives. Even if it can be seen that you're really good at what you do.
When it comes to transition period, my grown-up children, 2 of them was not able to go to university, and they were very bright kids. Especially for the second one, it's very painful that he could not go because I can see everything in him that he wanted to go. But because of poverty, I could not pay for him to go. And the other factor was that our papers was in Home Office, and it took them so long, for nearly a year, before the paper comes back.
I'm a very determined person, and so that determination has meant me going back to university with 3 young children at the time in order to get a promotion at work.
But one way of reaction from the ethnic minorities is that more of them tend to go into self-employment, like shops and other services, to make their ends meet. And when they run these shops and businesses, they'll work very long hours. 40 hours is not the norm for them. 60 to 80 hours is the norm. So that is one way of them fighting back against the discrimination.
Entrepreneurship is the way to go for a lot of us. Yeah? We've already decided that the institutions are very selective, that they are cliquey, that, and the arts world that I'm in, it's become very two-tier like everything else.
I work full-time and having to pay extra after-school clubs in order to continue being a professional. It's like you're sanctioned for having aspirations for yourself. As a single parent. That's the way I see it. And so you're making headway, you're trying to go for promotions, but at the same time it feels as if you're being pulled back.
Having access to good employment, not having those things that inhibit people who have really good work experience from actually getting the job, the undertones, the networking, the behind the scenes of why especially women or women of color, even if they're doing really well, don't get promoted, or I think it's the intangibles.
Immigration has been a big one for me, a very big one for that matter, because they have this stay that they will give you in the 10-year route, that every 2 years and a half, every 30 months, you have to renew it. And for somebody like me that have a big family, for the whole money that you've been working in that 30 months, mind you have to cover all your expenses. You're not entitled to any benefit, no recourse to public funds.
I'm a domestic abuse survivor. So I was trained and worked for a long time, but then I ended up fleeing with nothing but the clothes on my back. So I was set back a number of years. And I've found now that trying to accumulate wealth, there are so many barriers in place.
Our economy, our policies are not friendly towards people in general. If you come from a low background, it's really difficult, low income background, it's really difficult to break those barriers and move up.
Just those little things that help young people actually gain wealth. I feel like, yeah, having the government on your side in that way would be really helpful.
I would say lowering taxes would be one of the factors. Training and networking opportunities in businesses, and affordable home buying schemes should be implemented for everyone.
As a woman of color, I have to ask myself, if I conform, am I ready to maintain that system? Which also means that it will disenfranchise more people like me, more people like myself. So am I willing, happy, ready to step on the necks of others to ensure my own security? And the answer is no. I'm absolutely not.
What I'm trying to get across is the importance of stability, support, both from kin, from community, from state, to the individual and to the collective, the impact of health, the impact of caring responsibilities, the impact of trauma and mental health on individuals. I think all of these are factors which can be inhibitors.
Because a lot of people, like I mentioned, have the ideas, they have the ability, they just don't have the structure. And it's sad to say that, you know, certain communities are struggling, and it's affecting our whole sense of the fabric of society, and also, you know, belonging to a society, because, you know, people want to feel that people care.